We hope you will see Hello, my name is Desiree Ong, and I'm the Educational Enrichment Program Manager for ASU Gamage. ASU Gamage would like to welcome our Taiko Project panelists. We have Executive Director Brian Yamami, Artistic Director Masato Baba, and Choreographer Yumi Saito. ASU Gamage and Taiko Project has had a very long partnership that started in 2003 when Taiko Project premiered their first major performance on our ASU Gamage stage. In 2017, they performed in our Performances for Students series to a sold-out crowd of 1,800 K through 12 students. We are so happy to have them back here, even in a digital format. If you're watching from home, go ahead and type questions that you might have in our chat function. But first, we'll begin with a few prepared questions. Brian, for those who may not know, can you give a brief overview of taiko drumming? Where did it originate, and what distinguishes taiko drumming from other forms of drumming?
Well, taiko is just the Japanese word for drum, and the instrument has been a part of Japanese life and culture and music for centuries. But what we do and what a lot of other kumidaiko groups do is kumidaiko group drumming. That's where taiko were put onto a stage and a concert or a live performance was created with choreography, with music, to create kind of a staged show. And this started in Japan around in the 1950s with a group called Osuo Taiko and kind of propagated from there throughout Japan. And in the United States, it started in the late 1960s with two groups, the San Francisco Taiko Dojo and Kinara Taiko in Los Angeles. And from their efforts, taiko kind of spread all throughout the United States as well. I think there's close to 300 taiko groups across the US now.
All right. Please also tell us more about Taiko Project. When did it start, and what was the impetus for its creation? And what separates Taiko Project from other taiko drumming groups?
Well, Taiko Project started about 20 years ago, and I was encouraged as a young man in my 20s at the time to gather some of my kind of peers, some of the up-and-coming young taiko players in the country together to try to create something new, something different. And that's really all the core idea was. It was just to kind of bring together some of us that were friends in different taiko groups to try to create a new kind of show and a new kind of generational expression with taiko. Since the original taiko players in the US started in the late 60s and the 70s, we're kind of the first generation to come up playing taiko as kids in youth groups. Maz, even his parents play taiko as well, so we kind of grew up playing taiko and wanted to create something that was different and unique and that reflected our shared experience.
All right. Maz, as artistic director, please tell us a bit about your background and how that informs your approach to taiko.
Well, my mom and dad, Russell Baba and Jeannie Mercer, they met in San Francisco. And it was during the time of the civil rights era, and they were looking for something to be to connect them to their past, to Japan. And they saw the San Francisco Taiko Dojo perform, and it was their calling. And they joined the group, and they were with them for quite a few years until they moved up to Mount Shasta, California, and I think they took probably about a year or so off of taiko, and they wanted to do a little bit more in Mount Shasta, as it is a small town and very quiet. But we had some family friends there, another Japanese family that lived there, and we started the first taiko group there in Mount Shasta called Shasta Taiko. Fortunately, there was a taiko drummer, taiko maker, Mark Miyoshi, who also lived there, and so he built us our first drum, and we just started playing, and my mom and dad were able to get a California Arts Council grant to teach taiko. So they set up classes there. Throughout elementary, middle, and junior and high school, we performed quite often, did some little tiny tours here and there, but a lot of it was performing in the general area. And it was something that was always there for me, being that, my mom played taiko with me in her womb when she was pregnant. And so it was, a lot of people always say, well, taiko, the first time I saw taiko, it hit me straight in the gut, in the heart. And so for me, it's different. It's just a way of life for me. So seeing other people come into the group, into TaikoProject, is a little bit more fresh, and it gives me a little bit more energy to be able to try to convey the ideas that I want to do within taiko. I was fortunate enough to move to Hawaii after high school, and I studied taiko with a taiko master named Kenny Endo. And also after that, I went to Japan and studied more taiko and bamboo flutes with Edo through the Wakayama Ryu, which is a school that teaches Edo Bayashi. And so all these inspirations coming from my parents, from my fellow other taiko players like Brian and my other friend Shoji, who still plays taiko. We play taiko together in another group called Ensemble. So all these influences coming together, that's how I've created what I wanted to do. I don't necessarily want to be like my mom and dad. I don't think anybody really wants to be like their mom and dad. But I wanted to build off what they wanted to do, which is, they were very experimental with their music. So not just taiko, but drumming in general is global. There's drums in every culture. So taiko is just another way to be able to do something that I wanted to do, or we wanted to do, which is push the boundaries of what taiko was already at the time, 20 or so years ago when Brian created the group. And since then we've grown, and we've known a lot of, or we've gotten to know a lot of our members better, like Yumi, who is a great dancer, and she'll talk about that in a little bit. And my wife too also sings, so we're able to do all these different things. Other people have backgrounds with different kinds of music, dancing, hip hop, all sorts of stuff. So we wanted to incorporate more. What could taiko be? And so I, as an artistic director, I wanted to encourage that, and try to put something together to encourage everybody in the group to be able to push forward and create something new, something fresh, and believe in ourselves and our art.
All right, thank you for sharing. Yumi, as choreographer, please describe what goes into the creative process to choreograph for taiko drumming.
Yeah, so for taiko, it's not just an audio art. I think it's a very visual art as well. There's a lot of movement that happens. And with our group, I think we've been doing a lot more with just dance, adding dance to it. So it's not just taiko as the main part, but it, in this case, serves as maybe background music for a dance, or the dance complements the music. But for the pieces that were shown today, the ones I choreographed for were for Skyboy, as well as Hohai. I think that was the first song. But there's always a question a little bit like, are things within taiko songs, are they choreographed or not? So I don't want to take away from anyone's individual styles, but some of those movements in like expanding, those are all the players themselves. There's a lot of freedom in movements and expression, shows a little bit of, or shows everyone's personalities. In terms of choreographing for the group, the first piece that I choreographed for TaikoProject was a song that Mog made called Kie, or To the Moon. So that was the first time. I don't remember what year that was, but I was like, hey, I have this piece. Can you choreograph for it? I was like, oh, okay, I'll try. So whenever I think about pieces, I always start with the song. I listen to it a lot over and over again, and I always like to create like an image and a picture, and then kind of go into how does it make me feel? What do I want to show for that? And in all honesty, I also think about what it looks like on stage. So my image of it is always in this like little box of how it would look from look to somebody who's sitting like in the back of the audience, seeing the whole picture. But like Skia, that one was, because it was the first piece, I didn't know exactly what everybody's levels were. So it was kind of a repetitive obon style, or I guess obon is or line dancing style. So a lot of repeating parts. As the years have gone on, there's been a number of other songs. The most recent one was called a piece that Maz composed called Grounded. I think that might be one of my favorites so far. And it was actually the most challenging for me just because musically it was it was a different style. So I always like to take inspiration from other forms. So I watched a lot of um, ballroom dancing and line dancing. And I also did dive into square dancing for that too. So it was a lot of fun. I did a lot of YouTube at that time. um, but yeah, it's really just thinking about the music. I also do ask Maz or whoever's composing, like, oh, what did you think about when you were composing this? What's the message that you want to put across? And then other than that, I'll try to think of things. There's another dance called Flutes. So compose that one. Also, Courtney sings in that one, and that was sort of about their relationship. So for the dance, that one's just a two-person, and that was also fun. I haven't done a whole lot of just like pair dancing, so I got to do a lot of intertwining movements. So for anybody who would like to take a look at those, you can find them on YouTube all over the place.
All right. I'm going to switch gears a little bit now. In the last 6 months, Black Lives Matter has brought race into the forefront of national conversation. Where do you think that TaikoProject fits in that conversation?
Well, for me, I think it goes without saying that we feel that we're an ally and a proponent of social justice. But I guess where I see our role as artists and as Asian American artists is to help our audiences across the country examine their own perceptions of culture and cultural artistry. A lot of times when we travel across the country, audience members, sometimes kids, sometimes adults, will think that we're like straight from Japan. And I think it's our job to help educate people on how wide the spectrum of cultural diversity is in our country, and question and expand their own ideas of identity and what being an American looks like. The arts and the shared experience of the arts is a lot of times a place where these conversations can begin.
Thank you. In closing, for these prepared questions, we would like each of you to share what you hope audiences will gain after seeing a TaikoProject performance. And we'll start with Brian.
Well, first and foremost, I think I hope that audiences will be entertained. Taiko can be powerful, intense, joyous, lyrical, groovy, poignant, and we try to evoke all of these emotions through our performances. And I also hope they come away gaining an appreciation that what we do, our form is a hybrid bicultural art form, born in Japan and raised in the United States.
When I come away from a performance and somebody comes up to me when we're in the lobby greeting the people who are watching the concert, my favorite comment that comes back to us is, wow, you guys look very exciting, and it looks like you're putting all your heart out on stage. And to me, that's the most the comment that moves me the most. That tells me that we're doing our job, at least for a few people who come up to us and tell us that at the end. And that's sort of where I want us to be. I want us to be somewhere where we can impress the audience, look like we're having fun, because we're like a family. We've been together for 20 years. Of course, people have come and gone, but those who have come and gone, they're part of our family as well. So I feel like TaikoProject's home away from home, and it's really inspiring to be able to play with such amazing people And so I really hope the audience sees that when after our performance is done.
Oh, me, sorry. What do I want people to take away? For tonight, or in our current situation, I would like people to take this as a moment of reprieve from just everything that's going on. Some people are still at home with kids and everybody's under one roof, or all those things. So it's just a moment of just relaxing and having fun and enjoying something. And so giving just that a little bit of something extra in the day that maybe puts a smile on your face, and that energy. In general, like Maz said, when we go to performances, it is a lot of fun to interact with people. And I agree. I think I mostly just have fun on stage, and I'm glad we just get to share it with everybody. When it's safe for people to do activities, I really encourage everybody to try out taiko or any form of music or something. I especially believe with taiko, it's sort of this art form, or any art form, that kind of just has no barriers. There's no language barriers. You don't need to speak the same language to learn or teach taiko. It's just really about the sound and feeling and coming together and making music together and enjoying that company. And I think, with TaikoProject, definitely second home. I almost did cry when we had our little practice together. I was like, oh, we're all in one space for a little bit. So that's it.
All right, thank you. We're going to open it up to a few questions that have come through the chat. So, how does it feel to have such a big artistic influence, especially among collegiate taiko players? We'll go to Brian.
Let's see. I don't know. I actually have not been to a lot of collegiate taiko concerts recently, but if they like what we do and they're trying to do, or if they're influenced by us, then that's great. I think there's such a wide variety of taiko being done by groups across the country that, now more than ever, there's so much that they could tap into. You just type in taiko to YouTube and you'll find like an endless array of various videos and styles and techniques that back when I was in collegiate taiko many, many years ago in the late 90s, there was no YouTube. I'm kind of glad there was no YouTube. But the resources that are out there are kind of amazing. So, that's exciting. I'm glad that collegiate taiko groups are enjoying what we're doing. And I just encourage them to see everything that's out there and find their own voice as well.
All right. What are some rituals that you do before a taiko performance for good luck or to get into the performing mode? I'm going to throw that question to Yumi. What do you do before a performance to get ready?
Before performances is always the hustle and bustle. After we do our setups with hair and makeup, usually sometimes somebody will throw on some music, and it ranges from show tunes to pop music, anything to like pick up the mood. And for all of our performances, we usually circle up. Maz and Brian will have a couple words, and we do rounds of hugs with have a good show. But it's always a lot of fun. It's that energy right before that's really exciting, especially if we're on a stage with the curtain down, we're just getting into place, and it's that anticipation. It's a little nervousness, a lot of excitement, but I love it when the curtain goes up and it's just go.
All right. We have another question, which is, if someone is interested now in doing taiko, do you have any advice or recommendations for how, are there skill sets that they would need to get into? What would be your advice for somebody who's interested in starting in Taiko? And I'm going to ask Maz that question.
For me, I've taught kids as young as 2 or 3, all the way up into adults who are in their 80s. And my teacher Kenny Endo always said that it's never too late to start. But you have to. It is a very physical art form. So you have to take that into account, where you have to stand like in a martial arts pose, stance, for the majority of the class, and you're pounding a drum with your hands with big sticks, and so you just have to understand the physicality of it. That's not to scare anybody away, because it just takes a little time, to get your body into shape, to use those different muscles and build up your endurance for it. So, I would say if you can pick up a stick and hold it and you can stand, you should try. If you can't, then at least if you can hold the stick, that's one of the main things that we try to, that's important to be able to do that. So yeah, my advice would be, number one, know what you're getting in, know what you're getting yourself into, and then two, just understand the physicality behind it.
All right, and with that, we'll conclude our panel. Thank you so much for being on our Talkback panel with us. ASU Gamage would like to acknowledge our partnership with Segerstrom Center for the Arts in presenting Taiko Project tonight. And we would also like to thank our generous and compassionate ASU Gamage donors. Thank you at home for tuning in. We have more digital events coming up, which you can find on asugamage.com/digital connections. We look forward to the days when we will return to the stage and be able to have you and Taiko Project back in our theater. Take care and good night.